Hey there guys, CD Mangaka here doing a video on the new public test realm patch for Overwatch. So this is going to be just sort of my thoughts on the changes that we see here in the public test realm, my thoughts on what I want to see stay, what I'd like to see maybe not make it to live, and just to sort of clarify what I'm talking about. We're going to go through the patch and changes in a moment. If you want to test these out for yourself, all you have to do is go to your battle.net client, select the region. So like if you're in North America, where it says North America, you click that. At the top there will be a public test realm server or area, region, whatever. You select that, you install it, and then you can go in and you can play on these new changes. And this is something I think that professionals are going to be doing just so that they can play with the new changes. They've done this with the last patch. So the public test realm is basically like the PBE, and this is where Blizzard sends out a lot of their major stuff. Now this one's going to be focusing a lot on the Season 2 changes. I'm not going to really talk about the changes to the competitive format. There's an excellent developer blog already on it that's talked about how they're putting in these divisions for the ranking, how they're taking out sudden death, making payload stopwatch. So those have already been sort of talked about and discussed. My focus for this video is going to be on the changes to some of the maps and the characters themselves, and sort of see where this is going to lead the meta, as well as my thoughts on the changes themselves. So without further ado, let's get into it. So here we are. This is where it is. It's on the playoverwatch.com blog. And you can, they have all the information as how to play on the public test realm, answering questions about it, and then you can go into what is going on with the Season 2 competitive notes. Let's see, when activating. Oh, that's very cool. There's a couple other things here. Sit and laugh emotes are now unlockable for all heroes. Alright, that's cool. So, very slight thing. Here is all the competitive play changes that are going in for next season, which I'm very excited about. I think it's really good. I think it's going to help out a lot. And so now we're going to go into the hero balance updates. And so there's two general updates that have been happening to this patch that are going to change up a lot of the game. First one is ultimates. Ultimates that consume the ultimate meter when activated will now drain the meter more quickly. This would be 0.25 seconds instead of 1 second, so a quarter of a second as opposed to a whole second. This change is actually fundamentally pretty big to the game, because this means that wasting your ultimate or getting killed while you're trying to use your ultimate is going to be much more punishable. I'll give you this example. Say you're a Reaper and you have Death Blossom fully charged. Now, you being a sneaky deaky, you're going to go into the back line, you're going to jump down from above. Let's say you're on like King's Row, final point, defense. You jump on in from the top rafter to get on the enemy team, and you go die, and then you immediately get like headshot by everyone on their team, and you're dead before you can even channel your ultimate through. Currently, you would lose about maybe 15-20% on your ultimate charge, which is no big deal. Like 1-2 fights, a killer, a couple, and your ultimate's going to be basically recharged. So this means that you can go for those plays, and people that respond to you quickly, the enemy team is going to be punished for responding to you very quickly. They have to wait like the whole second for you to use the ult charge. Now, if they turn on you like that, and you drop your ultimate, like it is gone. That ult charge is just donezo. So this means that you better be prepared and set up to get that ult off, because if you get killed immediately, your ultimate is gone and you've blown that opportunity. So this is a change I like, just because it rewards good play on both sides. So if you're good with how you set up your ultimates, you're not going to be affected by this change at all. Whereas if you're a team that reacts very quickly to an ultimate, whether it's a Pharah ultimate, a Reaper ultimate, and if you're able to punish them very quickly, then you can be like, cool, we just got rid of that ultimate completely. We don't even have to worry about them coming back in again and letting them have a very quick second try. So this means that there has to be better set up for the ultimates, as well as there's just better punish play to it. So that's very big. The next one is reverted to recent change to reduce size of heroes' projectiles. So this one I'm going to have to sort of theory craft a bit more, because I don't know like how big and how small the projectiles were, but just so that you understand what this means, there's two forms of attacks I guess is the way to say it. In Overwatch, there's hit scan and there's projectiles. A hit scan is you're aiming at a point, you click the attack button, your character fires their weapon, and immediately the projectile travels in a straight line across the map. It does suffer some fall-off damage based on how far it goes, but, I mean, it's basically instantaneous, stopping at the first thing it hits. This would be Soldier, 76, McCree, Reaper, Tracer, any tanks with that sort of thing. I guess Zarya's left click, I guess, would be one thing, but that's like a beam. It's not really a projectile per se. Well, not even that. I mean, that's actually not even relevant to the point. The other one is projectile. So think of like a Zarya orb or a Zenyatta left click. You know, a Zenyatta orb. A Hanzo arrow, which is actually something relevant to bring up considering some of the changes that are happening in this patch. Those because there's a travel time to them, and you're going to have to do things like predict where the enemy is moving and lead the shot in order for it to hit. They were given larger hitboxes in order to compensate for that, make it easier to play those heroes. With this change, it's going to give them a lot of power back. I think the reason why we see that is because hit scan has sort of become the king of Overwatch in a lot of recent patches, especially in competitive play. I say patches, I mean like the last big patch, the Ana patch. So with this change, it's going to give a lot more power to those heroes that use projectiles, make them funner to play, easier to play, and more rewarding, and able to keep pace with the hit scan heroes. And the reason that I'm okay with this particular change is because in the hands of like a really good player, hit scan is going to beat projectiles if projectiles lag behind, and so in order to promote hero diversity, things like that, there should be like a comparable level in between a hit scan hero and a projectile hero. Of course, a projectile based hero is going to still have to do things like lead the shot, guess where the enemy is moving, rather than just like lock on target, pull trigger sort of a thing. So this should just make it a little more easy to play, and this should help out with some of the hero diversity at the top levels of play, as well as make some of the other heroes more accessible to newcomers. So two very big changes to the fundamental of the game that I like. D.Va, she's been very popular recently. The ultimate nerfs definitely helped her out, as well as the defense matrix changed, and the defense matrix is getting nerfed a bit. It's now going to start regenerating after a second delay, as opposed to a 0.5 second delay. So this means that there's less efficiency with toggling it on and off. So, you know, you're going to have to wait for a while. So keeping D.Va under fire and forcing her to use that up, you know, she's not going to be able to toggle it so much and have like this just infinite ability to keep your attacks walled off through her shield. So definitely going to make allow some of the heroes that struggle against her have an easier time, as well as just make it so that D.Va isn't going to last so long as a defensive option. Still going to be great, still going to be in a very good spot, but this is a change I think is very necessary. Now, Hanzo, this is probably the second biggest, if not third biggest. It's top three changes of the patch as far as like hero specific balances go. I think that the ultimate cooldown and the projectile cooldown could be like the biggest changes. But Hanzo, so he's now going to only experience a 30% decrease in speed while aiming instead of 40%. So this means that he's going to be able to play footsies a bit more, be able to dart, sort of like, keep his position moving as he's charting up his arrow, something super important to the hero. So this means, it's going to be a bit more, he's going to be a bit more mobile. And then Hanzo, his projectile speed at maximum has been increased by 30%. So if you get the bow and arrow fully pulled back, it's going to fly 30% faster. That's pretty huge, actually, because this means that it's just going to be more reliable to hit. That, I think, in conjunction with the projectile hitbox change, or like the size of it, if it is at all affected by it, I might add, could push Hanzo to actually be mid-tier. I think. I don't know about top tier. I think in the hands of a player, of a really good Hanzo player, that they're going to feast a lot more often than they did, because that's very much what he is. Either you're on point with Hanzo, you're hitting every shot, you're getting ultimates off like every minute, and the enemy team can't do anything about you, or you're missing the arrows, you're getting flanked by a Tracer, a Winston, whatever, and you're doing nothing, and then you switch to McCree. Basically how Hanzo kind of goes right now. So this is going to make him a lot more reliable, and possibly be a pick that we see a few times in competitive play, but I think that overall it's going to be, he's going to be a better pick. And I think that, a pocket of Hanzo is going to be a thing that we're actually going to have to worry about. So definitely time to start practicing up the Hanzo boys. Mei, her ultimate is now going to go through barriers, and the radius has been increased by 2 meters, so now it's 10 meters. It's like, what, 20 meters in diameter now? So you can sort of like see how big that is, like playing in training mode. So the fact that her ultimate goes through barriers now is something I think is okay. There's already like some very minute counterplay to it, like, you know, Genji can get in her face and deflect it. That's like a super high level play, but like a Reinhardt shield or a Winston force field, those things would deny Mei ultimates before, and that could really mess her up. And those are spells that, you know, can go up in the, you know, in a second of a fight. They have to cover huge areas, and so that really messed with a lot of Mei's reliability in placing her ultimates, especially considering how popular Reinhardt and Winston are. So this one's just to make it so that she's going to be able to put her ultimate down where she wants it to. Now, it's a change I like, because there's still going to be the counterplay of use a movement spell to get out of the ultimate, use Lucio, amp it up, Genji, Swift Strike, blah, blah, blah. So, and her default fires are still going to be the same, so we'll have to see if this ultimate change is just going to make it, when she gets that ultimate, much more reliable. I don't think we're going to see her in competitive play, like in every game. Maybe your team would be willing to gamble on it with like one map or something like that, but you have to keep in mind that in nothing has changed about her ultimateless gameplay, which I want to call neutral game, but at the same time, that's like not the right word for it, or the term rather. So I guess just like her normal mode, I don't even know, just standard play, so non-ultimate. Just click play? Maybe we'll call it that. I don't know. Well, I'll have to figure this out, how to call it. But so while her ultimate's more reliable, I think that's the problems that hold her back. So like, you can play around the freeze pretty well, you can gather around her, things like that. Difficult to use the wall, like really well, really consistently. You know, again, there's like a troll walls are too often. So we'll have to see how that goes. McCree, Deadeye, so his ultimate change is going to fall right into the general change overall. So right now when you activate his ultimate, you can activate it, it goes down to 50%, and then you can either choose to fire a shot, consume the rest of it, or just say, you know what, never mind, I'm going to pocket this 50%, get back to charging it up. Now when you cast the ultimate, it's all gone. So you get this cast. So if you use it to zone and open up a fight and the enemy team just retreats, you can't, there's, you know, casting it, yeah, it's gone. So this means that McCree is going to have a lot less ultimate presence, and that the zoning ultimate of McCree is going to be less effective, just because, yes, it's going to force the enemy back, but you're also not going to be able to build up just 50% ult charge and do it relatively quickly again. So this means that selecting when you use Deadeye with McCree is much more important than before. So we might see more teams hold on to it. Some teams could still spam it. But I think what's likely going to happen is that teams are going to use it in conjunction with other ultimates a lot more. A lot of times you see them go for it as an initiation tool. Just be like, hey, we want to push this payload like a free 10 meters or something like that. Drop the Deadeye ultimate, force the enemy back. Maybe force an ultimate out of them, wait for that, and then it's fine, we'll just rebuild it up again. Instead, now, I think teams are going to be more inclined to try and set up into it. So combo it with a Zarya ultimate, combo it with a Reinhardt ultimate. So that's what I see is going to happen. And that is going to be done in order to make using the Deadeye and burning through all that ultimate meter worth. So, and it's a change I like. I think it's a very good way of approaching McCree right now, because his ultimate does have this very huge impact on terms of where the enemy has to play on the map. And I think that his long-range fire is in a good spot right now. I think that his close-range quarters is in a good spot right now. He's able to duel flankers pretty reliably. If he has the flashbang, he can still be outplayed by them, and he just doesn't shred through tanks either. So I think that this change, we're going to see McCree kind of settle in a very good spot for a while. Mercy's getting buffed. So her healing beam on the staff is going up by 20%. This means that she's going to have insane amount of healing. And then her resurrected allies are going to be able to move around a whole 3/4 of a second faster. So this means that there's just less time waiting for the ultimate to finish channeling through. You get right back into the fight. This gives the enemy team a little less time to, you know, like get out of a bad position, things like that. So yeah, it's going to be. It's quite a change. It's a nice change to see. This in conjunction with some of the other support nerfs, namely to Lucio and to Zenyatta, I think this is going to see Mercy come up to a point where we're going to see Mercy again in competitive play. Now, Genji. This one I like most of these changes individually, but all of them together seem like huge overkill. Because the one thing you have to consider about Genji is right now, the reason we see a lot of him is that Zenyatta is in meta, and Zenyatta and Genji combo very well. Genji can get the Harmony Orb, and he just gets some free heals as he dives into the back line. It's not as bad as it was before, because Zenyatta has to keep line of sight on Genji, and obviously Zenyatta is not going to be able to follow Genji into the back line itself. But in some maps, in some areas, where it's pretty simple to keep a Harmony Orb on Genji for all times, I think like King of the Hill, then, you know, these changes I think are very much needed. But I feel like we might be overdoing it just because we're also nerfing Zenyatta. And if you nerf Zenyatta, you nerf some of Genji's effectiveness. And so, but we'll see what happens. So, I think there's like 3 of these changes I'm pretty okay with, and there's one that I'm just iffy on. So the double jump no longer resets when wall climbing. This is going to kill a lot of Genji's mobility, as well as cut off some of his more interesting flank routes to go like around the map on Nubani and use the wall climb to reset his double jump. This is going to kill a lot of his unique flanking routes, which I guess is okay, but aside from that, it just means that it's going to be easier for teams to sort of, he's not going to be able to stay vertical for so long, and he's going to have to hit the ground more often. Now his dash is no longer going to deal damage to Venom Mine or Steel Trap, and it no longer bypasses Steel Trap. So these changes I'm fine with. I think that it's totally okay for him to have to like hit them with the Shuriken in order to get rid of them. As well as having Junkrat just be able to catch a Genji right now means that, hey, there's another way to lock down Genji. I think I'm fine with that one. Swift Strike. This next one is the one I'm really iffy on. No longer interrupts quick melee attacks. So what this means is that what a Genji player will do is that they'll do a melee, and then they'll cancel that melee once the damage proc into the Swift Strike. This gives them like a 70 to 100 damage. I'm shaking on the numbers right now, I apologize. But this gives them a reliable burst of execution to finish off enemies. So Genji will sort of try and get into a position where they're throwing their shuriken, they peg you with like a rotation of 3, something like that. You know, and when you get low to health, then they're going to try and get close to you, hit you with the melee, and execute with a Swift Strike. And then the Swift Strike will be reset with that execution. Doing this means that they're going to have to now wait an extra little bit of time to get that execution. So the melee is probably going to have to finish, he's going to have to go back to starting position, and then he's going to have the Swift Strike. So this means that there's time for teams to react, either teams to get some sort of heal in, or a flashbang off from McCree, but there's just, you know, his burst is now drawn out over a larger window, and when that happens with the character, they lose some of their damage. Again, sort of like, think of McCree with Fan the Hammer. Nerfs. And I'm not sure about this change going through, just because with Zenyatta losing some power on his Discord orbs, like Genji's already going to lose some effectiveness with his executes. So I don't know about that one. We'll have to see how it goes. Because again, I don't know how much of it is just like all the other heroes have been nerfed so much that Genji is as strong as he is, or just the fact that Zenyatta was really strong that made Genji also stronger. So I don't know how this is going to play out. I want to see what of these changes make it through PTR onto live. And then the last change is to his ultimate, where the reduction of the duration of it is reduced by 2 seconds. And when you think of it, that's basically like, hey, you just lost 120, is it? I know his like Dragon Strike is like 100 plus damage, might be 150. So they're taking out like 2 attacks from Genji's ultimate, making it last longer. Now, in the sense that if you flub his ultimate, hey, cool, I don't have to sit there with his useless sword for 2 seconds. I can get back to building up my next ult charge and throwing shurikens again much sooner. So there is that sort of comfort buff, which isn't, I mean, it's still such a drastic nerf when it comes to like, there's just less damage potential on him. Now with his ultimate, and that's something that's going to really hurt him, which, I mean, hey, you know, nerfing his reliable damage, I think is fine, in the case of the ultimate, just because of how much it does, but, you know, now I think that, you know, Genji's going to take so much time and so much skill to invest into it might not be worth. Again, I think that the best players are going to get through it, and that a really good Genji is still going to do all the really good Genji things that are there, but make it less accessible for like newer players to get into it, or less mechanically skilled. We'll have to see how this one plays out with the Zenyatta nerfs as well. Lucio's Amp It Up, it loses 30% of its bonus, so instead of doubling your whole team speed, it now goes up by 70%. Kind of a big deal. It's like, it's almost, you know, it's like just a little past half. I don't know how to phrase that, but yeah, it's 30% drop. So, and the reason for this, Blizzard's taking it as much, thanks to the speed increase. He's like a must-pick in every lineup. So Blizzard's trying to nerf the part of him that gives him like this extra utility for engaging and things like that, because it's really good for that. It's really good to help flankers and help teams move in really fast and make it difficult for the enemy to react in time. So with that, we could see a bit more diversity in the support pool rather than support X plus Lucio. So we'll have to see how that goes. I think Lucio's still going to be a great pick. I think his aura heals are still going to be good for the teams. But we will have to see how this affects his place in life. Roadhog has a change to his hook that makes it like less buggy or whatever. This means that we'll be less likely to slide along walls, potentially ending up in an odd place after they've been reeled in. They will move back to the position where they were originally hooked. Okay, so this one's sort of like if you hook them and they're moving along a wall, they're going to reset first and then you're going to pull them in. So I think that the hook is just going to be more reliable and less weird interactions with Roadhog. Now Zenyatta, this is another big change in the patch. His Discord damage is going down from 50% to 30%. I'm not surprised at all. That's most of the changes that professional players have been talking about, and that's I did a roundtable with Chips, Dummy, and Shake about Zenyatta, and they pretty much agreed that his Orb of Discord is way too strong, and we think it should be like 30% instead of 50%, because the reason why is that put 6 professionals who have amazing aim on the same team with comms that can call out a Discord target, that Discord target's going to die. So, yeah, it needed to go down. So with that, some squishier champions are going to be able to have an easier time coming through. I think Zenyatta, we're still going to see him against like very sustain heavy or tank heavy compositions just to go for the picks, but definitely less oppressive overall. In compensation, his Orb of Destruction damage, like his base fire, is going up by 6, so Zenyatta's damage to a Discord target is going to be basically the same pre-nerf, but his whole team is going down. So I think it's a great change to make Zenyatta feel very much the same to play, but reduces his overpoweredness within a well-coordinated team setting. And then there's a couple other changes in here, the most notable one being Gibraltar's first point is going away. I mean, it was already gone, basically, because pros would just seed that ground. So, just, alright, let's just get, make it formal, sort of like, so, yeah. And then there's just a couple other bug fixes and things like that. So, but the big takeaways from this patch is that we might see less hit scan heroes, just because if the projectile size changes enough, then those heroes that aren't hit scan are going to be a lot more reliable and be able to compete with some of the hit scan heroes, which should hopefully open up the meta a bit more. Where we might see more Hanzo, just because if he gets if that change projectiles as well as his own changes to his arrows being more reliable, it's going to be a very big deal as well, and I think we could see a lot more Hanzos. I don't know if he's going to be like must-pick worthy every game, but rather a good Hanzo player is going to pop off more often. Zenyatta being nerfed and Lucio being nerfed and Mercy being buffed means Mercy's going to come back, guys, but we don't know like what's going to happen in the second, what's going to happen with the support role. If there's a time for it to have a really great parity where you can play any combination of the 4 healing supports, Rip Symmetra, then I think that this could be the time that where we see that, and this could very well lead a lot of interactions. I think some heroes that we haven't seen a whole lot of could come back. Things like Pharah, for example, just with the fact that, hey, Mercy can sit on her, and she gives 20% more healing, means that Pharah can endure a bit more abuse from hit scan heroes. But at the same time, who knows if she'll actually come back. Because, I mean, if projectiles are going to go big again, then she's just going to have more enemies that are able to hit her out of the sky. So, Pharah's going to be an interesting one to see, whether or not she's going to be able to make a return in some cases. We saw her have some success a few times in competitive play, even in the Zenyatta McCree patch, as I like to sort of refer to it, because that combo is hella deadly. I think defense heroes are still boned for the most part. Still not going to see a lot of Torbjorn, still not going to see a lot of Bastion, still not going to see a lot of Widowmaker. Widowmaker didn't get touched at all, but we might see some more Hanzo. So, there is that. Anyways, I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts on how this patch is going to affect the game. In future meta, you can do that by replying in the comment section below, or you can follow me on Twitter at CDMangaka. Very much appreciate you guys watching this video. I'm going to try and do more video content just sort of when I have these ideas. I do writing for Slingshot Esports. Overwatch, Smash, and League of Legends is sort of the 3 main games I'm focusing on right now, so if you want to check out any of those, just follow me on Twitter. That's where I update a lot of things, and I'm going to get better about sharing some stuff with you guys on YouTube, trying to grow that user base. Anyways, thank you all so much. Hope you all have a fantastic day, and enjoy playing the Overwatch Beta Public Test Realm.